managing editor of WWGOA. He's going to answer all your woodworking questions. If you guys don't know how this works, just put your question in the comment below and we'll do our best to get to them. Here we go.
Hey folks, here we are once again, WWGOA Live, coming to you right now. Tonight we've got Krista, who you just met on the other side of the camera. George Vondriska Jr. is here to help out in the shop and retrieve stuff as needed. One of the things we're going to try tonight, and we want to know what you think of it, is we're going to put some lower thirds and some overlays on the screen at various parts. And Krista's going to be handling that on the computer. So let us know if you like that or not. We're trying to do that so we can add a little more detail. For instance, if I mention a website, she can type it in and get it up on the screen for you so you can catch it on the fly. Got anything to say to the folks at home? No. There's like 8 million people watching right now. Okay. Maybe there's 500 people watching, but you know, shoot for the stars and try to get the moon, as Jim says. Hit us with a question. Krista, baffle us if you can.
Okay, Ronald A is asking, I have always been a little confused on what type of electric sander to use on my final passes of flat boards. Currently, I use a belt sander, 120 grit first, followed by a square vibrating sander, 150 grit, and finally a random orbital sander, 180 grit. Is the orbital sander best for the final sanding or the vibrating sander?
Okay. The S word, the dreaded S word, sanding. It's a great question. We want to be sure we get this right. George, could you grab belt sander is on top. I'll take that and start talking about it. And then there should be 2 more sanders below the bench. Yep, perfect. So here's what we got going. A belt sander is kind of everybody's best friend and worst enemy. The really good news is they take wood off really fast. The bad news is they take wood off really fast. So it's easy for these to go astray on you. So a couple things here. And how about, George, just that big maple board that's leaning up against the wood rack over there in the center. There you go. Yep. So Krista, if you can come in to kind of get the motion of our sander here. Thanks, sir. So let's just get a little bit of how-to information going here on these machines. With the belt sander, you do want to make sure that you're always running parallel to the grain, never across the grain. So we want the belt sander to track in the same direction as the grain. As I'm moving across, I want each pass to overlap the previous pass by half the width of the platen. So the platen is this device right here. And I want half coverage on each pass. A really good way to keep track of what you're doing here is to, on your board, mark this, something like that. Then, as you're doing your sanding, remove that pencil line. And as the pencil line comes off the entire board, that's going to tell you you sanded the entire board. Big deal with the belt sander is keep it moving. In the world of buying advice, variable speed, which this machine has here on the handle, is a wonderful thing. When you're first getting the feel for the sander, you can run it slow so that it doesn't take off material too quickly. All right, next, the vibrating sander. And you know, when I was growing up in woodworking, about George's age, these were kind of the only sanders we had around. Could you grab, George, or will we reach? Not quite, won't quite reach the wall. If you get an extension cord out of that storeroom, we'll run this a little bit. The deal with a vibrating sander is it really is just like it sounds. The pad here is going to vibrate back and forth. A couple benefits these sanders have, and then if you hit that wall right there, and we'll run it over here. One, they don't take material off really quickly, so they're very easy to control. When I'm rounding over an edge, let's say I've done an 1/8 or 1/4 inch round over with a router bit here. This is a great way to finesse that and kind of finish the round over. I find it hard to do that with a random orbit, impossible to do with a belt sander. So this is a good middle sander, middle application sander. Let's give this a little electricity. And then why don't you come in tight on this pad, Krista? We'll see if you can actually, this will challenge your camera skills. Let me hold still. And then we'll see if we can see the, as it slows down and ramps up, can you see the action? So really we're just vibrating back and forth. Now stay where you are, because I'll make your life easier. Let's get rid of the vibrator and plug in the random orbit sander. Now, maybe zoom out just a skosh, as we say in Minnesota. You'll hear some people refer to these as DAs. Usually if somebody's used to using a pneumatic form of this, they call it a DA. That stands for dual action. What's cool with these is that they spin and they oscillate, hence the random orbit part of this. So you can really see the motion we're getting on that one. You're doing just the right thing here in order of operations using this sander last. Again, with this one, like the belt sander, you do want to keep it moving to make sure that you get uniform coverage and you're not over sanding in one spot. A couple other tips. When you're using this sander, all it needs is the weight of the machine. If you press down on this, you're actually going to hurt your sanding operation, because what happens is you're slowing the pad down because you're putting down pressure on the sander. Because it runs slower, you're going to get more sanding marks in your work. So you might feel like this is the way to really hoggle it off, is to get some weight on top of it, but it's detrimental to your finish. The other thing is never tilt it. We want to just leave the pad nice and flat on the work so that it touches the entire surface and we're not digging a corner in. All right, so these should go back, George. Thank you very much, sir. All right.
All right.
Fire away.
All right. Bob says, when I build simple drawers and mount them on metal drawer runners, they always come out uneven in the front. One side of the drawer is further into the cabinet than the other. What am I doing wrong?
All right, this is a good question. This has happened to me. Let's look at some drawers, and I don't mean drawers, I mean cabinet drawers. So if you get over here on the miter saw stand, we've got drawers here on mechanical slides. So this was Bob, right?
Bob.
All right, so what Bob's talking about is that when the whole thing goes together, you maybe end up where on an overlay front like this, it's touching on one side, not touching on the other, because the whole thing is skewed. In my experience with that, what happened is when the drawer box went together, if you can kind of frame on the whole box there you go. When the drawer box went together, it didn't go together square. So as a result, when the whole thing closes and you're trying to get the front of the box aligned with the plane of the face frame or the banding, whatever's on the front of the cabinet, it just can't happen because we've actually got, is it a trapezoid, George, when they're skewed like that? If it's not a square, it's a something, I don't know. You've got this trapezoidal shape going here, so this corner sticks out further than that one does. So you got to be really careful when you're putting the drawer together. You got to be really careful when you're putting the bottom in to make sure we're done here, to make sure you're keeping it square so that when it closes, we're flush across the front like that. Once the drawer is together, it's really hard to turn the clock back and fix that because you probably got glue dry on the drawer now and it's really hard to correct. So it's all about good assembly.
All right. Our next question comes from Rich C. I would like to know how to build a cremation box. Do you have any drawings of how to do it?
Okay, good question. I did some of this, I don't know, maybe in January or so of this year. I built a cremation cast. Can you kick that one up on the screen for me, Kristen? So here's what I did. It's rectangular. It's 5 by 5 on the end, and it's 8 inches long. So what I did on the 5 by 8, the front panel and the back panel are 5 by 8. That's the golden proportion coming into play. If you've seen other videos of mine, you've seen this before. The golden proportion is 1.6 to 1. You can use it as a multiplier. So if I know one dimension is 5, 5 times 1.6 is 8. That gave me the length of the box. So that makes the box good looking because we're using the golden proportion to get what's called the golden rectangle. Now, the other thing that comes into play with the cremation cask is how big in general, how much volume does it need? A good rule of thumb is 1 cubic inch of volume per pound of body weight for whomever the cask is intended. If you have a look on WWGOA.com and you search cremation cast. We've got 2 items, I believe, up there, a story and a video. AJ Moses, one of our contributing editors, has done quite a bit of this, and that might also help lead you through this. All right, George and I are ready if you are.
Yeah. Steve C. says, I am constructing a small stool out of curly maple. I will finish it natural with a semi-gloss polyurethane spray. Is there something I should do first to bring out the beautiful grain of curly maple?
So the real question is, can I answer this without saying stool sample and breaking into it? Yeah, thank you. So good question, and I've got an answer that's going to be answered very well for you in the future. So do this, Krista. Throw up the image of Paul Mayer's hall table and tell me when you're there.
Well,
it should be, it's like Paul table number 1, way down at the bottom.
Yeah, I could find it. How about that one? Yeah, okay.
Golden ratio or golden proportions, same thing.
Okay,
Good
it's
question. So Paul Mayer, one of our contributing editors, made a beautiful table, and you're looking at it on the screen. It's a curly maple top, and the legs and the apron are Bubinga maybe. I don't remember what the dark wood is. But he had exactly the same question that you had, and he did some research. Go ahead and go to the next picture, Krista. Generally, to really pop maple, and are we looking at the pop maple now? To really pop maple, it entails adding a dye to it, a little bit of dark color before the top coat goes on. So here's my recommendation: is that article is going to hit on woodworkersguild.com in about September of 2015, September of this year. So give a search for Mayer curve table. What is it called, Krista?
Mayer curved hall table.
Mayer, thank you. Mayer curved hall table, and he's got all the how-to to build it, in addition to the recipe for getting that good color on it. And what's the other thing we're supposed to be mentioning here, Krista, about Woodworkers Guild?
Right. Don't forget to go to WWGOA.com, sign up for the newsletter, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay. Brief commercial timeout. Now we're ready for a question.
That's right.
Can I get a water while you're reading?
Yes, you sure can. Hi, George. This is from Paul. I took on a volunteer job to make 50 3/4-inch thick 3x3 triangles for the church's preschool. I ran into a problem while trying to make straight cuts on my scroll saw. The blade would wander off my line, even though I was feeding the pieces straight. Am I running the motor too fast or slow, or is that just the nature of scroll saws?
All right, so let's make a move to the scroll saw. George, if you could grab a straight edge off of the pegboard there. Walk this way. You tell me when you're ready, Krista, with the scroll saw in your frame here.
Well, it's in the frame there.
I'll do it perfectly. All right, so first off, scroll saws, generally really small blades, really good for making intricate, curvy cuts. I'm going to get a line on here, Krista, then I'm going to ask you to zoom in tight on the cut, if you'd be so kind. So it sounds like this was what Paul was describing. He was trying to cut triangles. I'm assuming the triangles had straight sides. So in doing so, trying to follow this straight line. Now, one of the things we talk about a lot with bandsaws is the idea that bandsaw blades have drift to them, which means in order to cut a straight line, you maybe have to dogleg your material. You have to feed it crooked to cut a straight line. Same thing happens with scroll saw blades. We can have some drift to it. So it's actually happening here where I'm looking in a bird's eye view right over the cut. This board is twisted a little bit to my right, and that's just the way it is. That's the way the blade cuts. Got to hold the material down on the saw. Another thing that we're doing here is maybe, Paul, we're just asking the scroll saw to do something it's really not best at. What scroll saws are so good at is making these little intricate curves like this. And something like a bandsaw or similar would just be a better way to cut nice straight lines on a triangle. while we're standing here, let me see if I can give you a free scroll saw tip. Nobody asked about this, but I'm going to try it anyway. Let me see if I can get this wood to burn as I'm trying to make the cut. This is maple I'm working on. All right, now Krista, if you can get inside the cut with your zoom.
I can try.
There you go, that's good. So now we've got a little burn inside that cut.
Let me just zoom in a little
And it's, you know, I'm turning an exceptionally tight corner there. And a good question would be, how can I avoid this? Well, one way is I learn to handle the bandsaw better and better, or scroll saw better and better. I can try and make that go away. Here's another way. I'm using packing tape. Zoom out a little bit, if you'd be so kind. Roll of conventional packing tape. And I'm going to stick that. Let's say I wanted to make my cut right here. I'm going to put the packing tape over my line, right where I want to make the cut. And cut through the tape, through the pencil line. And this is live, there's no redo, so let's see how we did here. Virtually the same cut. Now I'm going to ask you to zoom again so we can compare side by side. And the one on your right is the one that had the packing tape in it. So what happens is the packing tape, as the blade comes zinging by, puts a little bit of lubricant on the blade, and that helps it go through the cut better. So burn, no burn. So a very cool, low-tech way to add a little, I know you're getting there, a very cool, low-tech way to add a little better quality to your cut. Are we heading back for that?
Heading back that way.
Okay.
And just a reminder for those of you who just joined us, we're live with George Vondriska, Managing Editor of Woodworkers Guild of America. And you can type in any of your questions in the comment box right below this video. All right.
And George Jr.
And George Jr. All right, so this is kind of cool. We have a viewer from Brazil, and he would like to know, yeah, he is 63 years old, and I'm going to probably brutalize this. He lives in Suzano, Brazil, and he would like to learn more about the use of screws or glue. So I'm thinking maybe which is better for putting things together.
Is that, so what does the question actually read?
It says, I would like to learn more about the use of screws or glue.
Okay, so let's, George, I'm going to send you on a mission. Under that workbench over there, there's a box. The bench has got the router on it. There's a box of screws that says 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches. You could bring the whole box. Krista, this will be the zoom of your life when we get to it. First thing I want to do is talk about, then let's talk about screws. And it's really important in your woodworking that you're using the right tool for the job, the right fastener for the job. So let's get, thank you, sir. Krista, I'm going to have you come in as tight as you can. I'm trying to give you a little backdrop there on that screw. Uber zoom.
I just have to go slow so it doesn't like make people's eyes wonky.
All right, you're pretty full frame there. Nice, if you can pan down just a tiny, nice. Okay, so here's what we've got going here. I'm gonna come back just a little bit with it. All right, this is a wood screw. Here's what defines this. Notice that there aren't any threads between the head of the screw and the threads. If you look at a drywall screw and you try to put projects together with a drywall screw, commonly they're threaded all the way down. That's great for drywall, that's bad for wood. We need this blank spot here, that's called the shank of the screw. We need that blank spot there with no threads on it to allow the screw to completely draw the parts together. While I'm doing this, George, I'm going to ask you to get those two glue bottles, the blue and the green one, and a red one back here. So we want to make sure that you're actually putting stuff together with a wood screw, not the wrong kind of screw. The other thing we've got here, this is what's called a flat head screw. That's because the head has got this cone shape to it. It's a screw that's used very, very commonly for woodworking applications because we can countersink this and get it below the surface of our material. General rule of thumb for fastener length, whether it's a screw or a nail, is the fastener should be at least twice as long as what you're going through. So if I was screwing this piece of 3/4 inch cherry to another piece of something, this 1.5 inch screw would be perfect because 1.5 inch is twice 3/4. In the world of glues, let's do just a little bit of a glue primer here. Today's glues are stronger than what you're putting together in most cases, provided the joinery is good. So conventional yellow glue like we've got right here, that's my go-to glue for most projects I do. I'll only go to these two glues, which are designed for outdoor work, if I'm doing something that's going to see moisture. With conventional yellow glue, you've got to have the right conditions. You don't want it to be too cold because then the glue won't have a chance to dry. Yellow glue dries by evaporation. So if it's a really humid day, that's going to inhibit its ability to dry, or if it's too cold, it's going to freeze before it has a chance to dry. So conventional yellow glue is going to work just fine for most furniture and cabinetry. Thank you so much for writing in from Brazil. You get the long distance award. That's very cool. I think that's our first out of the country viewer.
Probably.
All right, you can go back again. All right.
All right, and I just want to remind everybody that you can go to WWGOA.com and sign up for the newsletter, and also follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
And then since we're doing a commercial, I'm going to say we're doing this new thing tonight where if you missed us at the beginning, we're adding some text on the bottom of the screen. We're kicking in some images every once in a while. We're trying to make it easier to get the information across so that you can follow what we're talking about. Let us know if you like that, dislike it. Does it help? Is it worth us doing it for you? Hit me.
All right, speaking of glue, sort of, multiple viewers have asked about your Adirondack chairs. They say, I really like the WWGOA Adirondack chair. I know you've got paper plans. Can I get wooden templates from WWGOA?
All right, so could you grab the Adirondack chair, George? We'll do a big move here. I mean, you're staying. I'm doing a big move. So that everybody can see the chair. Thank you, sir.
Oh.
Now we're talking. This is the way to do live Q&A. What were we talking about again?
That chair.
Oh, so this is the Adirondack chair that's on woodworkersguild.com, WWGOA. I'm glad that you like this chair. It's got a bunch of cool things going for it. What people seem to like the best is the seat has got a curve in it so that there's a place for your hinder to go. And we get that right. The back has got a curve in it so there's a place for your back to go. So the question being, can I get hard templates for this? That we do not have. So what we provide for you with this article is, or with this video, is full-size paper templates. So you can get that PDF, you can take it to a place like Kinko's and get them printed out full-size, bring the paper patterns back to your shop, fasten them to a piece of hardboard or plywood, and then from that cut your own pattern. So all those paper patterns are available, but no, we don't have any solid wood patterns available for you.
Okay, so I'm going back to glue. The next question we have is, what is the best glue to use on that Adirondack chair?
No. Guess what, Jerry? Just the blue and the green one this time.
And while he's grabbing those, the next question is, can you provide general tips for making Adirondack chairs? So.
Okay. All right. So if you can get on the glue on the arm, Krista, thanks, Rick. Working with these two glues on outdoor projects, here's what you need to know. The blue one, Type-On 2, is water resistant. Type-On 3 is waterproof. So an Adirondack chair like this, where it's going to sit outside, it's going to get rained on. what I'm looking for, my line in the sand is, it's not going to be immersed in water. I think it'd probably come back out at this point. It's not going to be immersed in water. We're not building a planter here. The Type on 2 would be fine. Type on 3, if we're building a planter or a boat virtually, then we could use 3 as a byproduct, and a nice feature as well. Type on 3 is food grade acceptable. So for something like a cutting board, it's a great choice for that. For me, for the most part, I just default to 3 all the time because waterproof is probably better for anything that's going to be outside than water resistant. So if you wanted to just keep one of these in your shop, the 3 would be just fine. General tips. Primarily at this point when I build these, I use Western red cedar, which I get from a home center. If you look at this stuff, what we're really looking at here is cedar decking. What this stuff is called is 5/4, that means 1 1/4 by 6 cedar decking. In real life, so that's its nominal size. Its actual size is 1 by 5 1/2. It's a great material. It's a great product for this chair. Western red cedar is naturally water resistant. That's where they make decking out of it. That being said, I've built a bunch of these chairs out of regular old pine from a home center. And the difference is, if I didn't treat this with its waterproof glue and outdoor fasteners, it could live outside for a really, really long time and be fine. Pine, you're going to have to paint it or seal it, and you're going to have to repaint it. You're going to have to keep it sealed if you want those chairs to always live outside. A couple things, make sure you're using outdoor fasteners with your outdoor wood and your outdoor glue. You might get tricked here where you think cedar is so soft, you can just drive a screw through it without pre-drilling. Tricked, meaning that's not a good idea. Always pre-drill, or it's very easy to split the cedar. If it doesn't split today, it could split in the future. Another thing, if you look at the chair, there's a lot of mirror image parts on here. The 2 arms are the same, the slats are the same, the legs on the bottom are the same. So when you cut those, I'm coming back, when you cut those pieces, here's a arm, over there. Okay, here's an arm, pieces from which to cut it. So the smart money is you need 2 arms. Take the 2 arm pieces and using double-faced tape, put those together, then trace the pattern, then do the cutting and the sanding. Keep them together right through the sanding step. You're going to be able to cut and sand 2 arms just as fast as you can do 1. So that really economizes the time it takes to make one of these chairs and all its curdy parts. All right, sir, we're done with this unless I can sit down.
You can maybe to answer this next question.
But that's okay.
Okay. So Ken would like to know, is there any reason he shouldn't use Type Bond 3 for all of his gluing needs?
Good question. I think the biggest, I don't need it back. I think the biggest stumbling point is just expense. Type Bond 3 is more expensive than an original. So really the only reason to not use it is don't rate me. Sometimes even for indoor projects, if you saw the tri-square that we did earlier, maybe in July or August of 2015, I used Type Bond 3 for part of that because it's got a longer tack time than original. So tri-square is a shop project. Clearly it's going to live inside all the time. But the Type Bond 3 gave me more working time to put everything together. So short answer, no, you could put everything together with 3, it'd be smurferific.
Okay, and our next question. It is coming from Earl. Could you please explain the differences in plywoods? Can you explain how to choose between the different grades of plywood for cabinets on the movie and where to find it?
On the movie, so it must have been
a
video. All right, George, so this will be a test of your sheet stock knowledge. Piece of plywood, melamine, and MDF.
And while he's grabbing that, I just want to remind everybody that we are live. You can type your questions in the comment box below this video. And you can also go to WWGOA.com, sign up for the newsletter, and I believe George has something to say about the question.
about the question.
Yeah.
I have something to say about the question.
About the questions.
About the questions. We really like getting your questions. Post your questions on the page.
And if we don't get them.
Oh, and if we don't get to them, okay, I see where we're going with this. If you post a question and we don't get to it tonight live, look for Ask the Editor on WWGOA.com, and we'll get the questions and the answers posted under the Ask the Editor drop down on WWGOA. Is that?
Yes, thank you very much.
Lead me in the right direction?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so are we back to sheet goods now?
Yes.
All right, so here in the middle of the bench, we come in a little bit then, Krista, so they can see sheet goods and not me. Let's start with MDF is a choice for cabinetry. MDF stands for medium density fiberboard. Can you hit them with a little text on that?
That's not the right one. I think these are all like mislabeled. Sorry to say that. Well, I don't think we have the MDF. Sorry.
Okay, so MDF stands for medium density fiberboard, and it would be a carcass choice if you were building what's called a paint grade project, because of course it's not very attractive to look at. Big benefit to MDF is it's very inexpensive. A couple of downsides, it's very heavy. One-man show like me, except for when George is here to help move stuff around, I'd rather not carry sheets of MDF into my shop. But very inexpensive, wonderful paint product, takes paint very, very well. Dusty to work with, even if you've got good dust collection on your equipment, just because of the nature of the product. Melamine is one of my favorite cabinet building materials. Melamine is a particle board family. It's got a particle board core. And then the surfaces have been coated with a plastic. A little bit more expensive than MDF, not too much. If you walk into a home center, most home centers will sell you white melamine all day, every day. If you go to a hardwood supplier, you'll find you can get melamine in red, green, blue, just about any color you want, and wood grains. So if you want a maple grain, oak grain, walnut grain, places like the specialized places, hardwood suppliers, will have that wood grain available. What I like about melamine is being lazy, like I am. When the cabinet is built, I don't have to worry about sealing the inside because this plasticized surface takes care of that for me. Makes for a nice bright cabinet interior and wipes really easy. Now on the outside, what that means is we don't have a wooden face here, so you do have to skin the outside of melamine cabinets. If you have a look at WWGOA.com and search covering melamine or skinning melamine cabinets, we've got a video on there that covers that technique. Now, our all-time ever favorite, plywood. Plywood's a great choice for cabinets. Way less heavy to carry around than MDF or melamine. Our face grain would then match the grain of our face frame. So in this case, we're looking at red oak, which I use with my red oak face frame. One of the places we can go with this is what grade of plywood do I need for my cabinets? This is a B grade of red oak veneered plywood, grade that's pretty commonly available in the grade that I use most common. If you see on the plywood grading A, B, B2, B, C, so AB means it's A one face, B the other face. A would be the outside of your cabinets, B would be the inside. If it says B2, it's B both faces. What we've got going with plywood is a core made up of laminations with the grain of each piece at 90 degrees to the other, makes it very, very stable. So a lot of cabinet work, plywood continues to be my go-to choice for that.
Great, thanks, George. Now Gary wants to know, hi George.
Hi Gary.
I was wondering if there was a good sealer for MDF that would go under several coats of polyurethane. I am planning a cross-cut sled and was going to use MDF.
Great choice. All right, George, I'm going to send you on a mission. The black cabinet that has the finish in it. Oh, sorry, leave that here. This is what we're going to talk about it again. There's a small can that says, yellow and white, says sealed coat. All right, Gary, great question. Here's the deal with MDF. Is the crew in the shop has a very flippant attitude about WWGOA. It makes me giggle. Small can, it's like only a quart. I think it's in there. The deal with MDF is that the face surfaces are very, very dense and very, very tight and very, very smooth. And that's because the way they make MDF is they take all sorts of stuff on this side. I've been told 15 inches of mice in the shop. I've been told 15 inches of sawdust and glue, and they put it through rollers, and under a lot of heat and pressure, they compress that down to 3/4 inch stock. Makes it very dense, the surface is very smooth. The problem we get into is when you cut it, this edge that you expose here can be very porous. This will finish differently than this. So a great trick is to use shellac. Here we go. So seal coat is not, I know you were getting there. Seal coat is nothing more than de-wax shellac, and it's a great way to seal MDF before you put a coat of paint on it. George, maybe just grab Chinese plaque off the wall there. It's a good example of this. One of the things I've been doing is cutting plaques on the shop out. Thank you, sir. So this, which looks maybe like, it's supposed to look like hammered copper. This is made out of 3/4 inch MDF. After the carving is complete, a little bit of sanding, top coat of seal coat, then a top coat of paint over that. The seal coat goes a long way toward improving the surface quality of the paint because it'll seal those pores before the paint gets on there. So answer is seal coat. You can also simply use Zinsser, I believe it's called 123. It's shellac, but it's pigmented. This is the stuff that if you had a leak in the roof and you've got a water stain in your drywall you're trying to cover, you put that on before the paint goes on so that the stain doesn't bleed through the paint. It's going to do the exact same thing for you. Clear coat, if you're clear coating over it. The 123 primer, if you're going to paint over it.
Okay.
I think we're done with that. Maybe.
Yes. All right, and we have a viewer from Australia asking a question.
Hang on. Is Australia further than Brazil? From Hammond, Wisconsin. George, you should know this. You're in high school. I think it is. We might have a new long distance record.
Okay, and he wants to know, do you have any?
Does water flush the other way? Is that his question?
No, I don't think so. Wouldn't he know?
Sure.
Do you have any hints on fixing hinges to small boxes? How deep to cut the hinge insets? I always have problems with uneven gaps between the lid and the base, or the box does not close properly.
I think, George, on the shelf in the office is the box we make for the woodwork merit badge. So see if it is. And if it is, bring it out. Is that a yes? Okay. I don't know. We can talk it through from this. We don't. So this box when the scouts come in for woodwork merit badge. This is the project we have them work on. So this is a small box with hinges. So the problem with this can raise its head. Shooting text.
Yeah.
Raise its head here, where if the hinges don't get mortised in correctly, then this won't close correctly. Maybe we're touching on the front, way open on the back, or even worse, it can be sprung where it doesn't want to close all the way because you went, you got to think a second, too deep with the mortises. So part of the solution for this, what we're trying to do is, am I in the right spot for you?
You gotta tip it a little bit, please. Thank you.
What we're trying to do, I want to get a little bit of profile on the hinge. There we go. Is to mortise in the depth of the leaf of the hinge. And the way I usually do that, now in these cases, in this case they're surface mounted, they're not mortised at all. What I do is I set a marking gauge. Do you know what a marking gauge is? They're back here on the wall. Oh, sorry, there isn't one there. Keep going down to the hand tool drawer. I might not. Hang on, we're coming right back.
Well,
Yeah,
while they're
I got it.
searching,
Get it, go ahead.
make sure you go to WWGOA.com. Sign up for the newsletter if you haven't. Tell your friends and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay, another, how are we on the tight shot of the marking gauge? You happy with that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what I'll do is I'll use a marking gauge like this, and I'll set a marking gauge so that from here to the cutter is the thickness of the hinge. And I'll do that just by setting the flange of the hinge right in there and using that as a gauge to set this. Then I'm going to go ahead and make a mark on this box. So can you see where I'm at here with the marking gauge?
Yes.
All right. So then I'll use that to drag a line, which then, I'd be surprised if that shows up. Can you see the line, Krista, or is it?
Barely.
Okay.
You can kind
Give
of
it a
see
little
it.
pencil.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay. That shows me the depth to which I need to cut. Now you can do this one of two ways. One way would be I mortise deep enough for the box to accept both leaves of the hinge, and then I only have to cut one mortise. Or I go part way into this one for one leaf, I go part way into the lid for the other leaf. It's a nicer look when you're done if you've mortised in both. We do have an article by Seth Keller on the WWGOA site, which is all about his technique for mortising these. I believe what he does is he defines the outside of the hinge with a knife, and then he does the mortise itself with a router. All freehand takes a little bit of practice, but it's a great way because we can get that router bit set accurately and test it on a piece of scrap. So it's a great way to get this just right. So one approach, marking gauge, chisel. Another approach that Seth uses is define it and route it.
Thank you, George.
And thanks for calling in, writing in from Australia. What time is it in Australia? It's 20 to 8 here. I wonder what time it is there.
All right.
Or what day it is. That's even weirder. We're talking into the future. All right, I'm done.
All right. We have a viewer who would like to build your raised planter box. In South California, he's having a hard time finding cedar decking. Do you have a suggestion for a reasonable substitute?
Well, I'm trying to think if I'm going to make George carry the planter box all the way over here, but I don't think I will, because it's all the way on the other end of the ship. Lots of woods are suitable outdoor materials. White oak is a really good one. Honduras mahogany, if you want to go that route, but that'd be a really expensive way to build a planter. Another thing I'm very intrigued by for planters and also for Adirondack chairs are some of these man-made decking materials. So for instance, Trex would be an example. Some of these are made up from ground up milk cartons, and they're available the same way that the cedar is, which is 5/4 by 6 nominal, actual 1 by 5.5. I would explore that idea of, if you're okay with that man-made material look, and they make them in a lot of different colors. They make them in kind of a cedar brown. So that would be another option. Ipe is a wood that in this part of the world people do buy and use for decking material. It is expensive, but it is naturally water resistant, be a good outdoor choice. So there's some options for you. Like I talked about with the Adirondack chair, conceivably the whole thing could be pine. You'd have to paint everything inside and out because of the way that the water from the planter is going to get to the inside of the box. Alternative to that would be, instead of filling it with dirt, maybe fill it with flower pots. Instead of filling it with dirt, put flower pots in the box. So hope that helps.
Great. And Rob would like to know, when is the best time to apply the stain and finish coat on a project? Should he coat before he screws everything together or after?
It's a great question. Whenever possible, I finish before I assemble. So the reason for that is that especially if you're staining. You may have experienced this where when we get an inside corner, and then you come along and try to wipe stain in there, it's hard to be neat. It's hard to not leave a puddle of stain in the corner. If everything is still apart, then it's much easier Can you hear Sonia?
Yes, she can hear you. So at least you can do audio.
Let me just do,
Yep, we're live.
so we're experiencing, we're not sure what the problem is, some kind of technical problem. So it sounds or looks like we have audio but not video.
Correct.
So let me just wrap up where we were, which is talking about finishing prior to assembly. Great idea. The qualifier is you can't have finish where you're going to have glue, because then the glue won't stick. So if you have a dado or a rabbit, best thing is to mask those off with masking tape and then do your staining or sealing. And then when you put it together, you won't have a glue issue. So with that, we are very, very sorry for this problem. So glad to have had you all get engaged with us and watch this. Yes, what?
You're going to answer the questions on that?
We're going to answer questions that we didn't get to at Ask the Editor on WWGOA.com. We will be doing this again in the future without, hopefully, this technical issue. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.